let me share a tale about unconditional love. Following his father's passing, he resided with his younger stepmom. For many years, he would pass by the dark and quiet room, always curious. One day, he noticed a suitcase outside and the door was unlocked. Taking a deep breath, he gently pushed the door open and peeked inside. There she was, his young stepmother, peacefully asleep. The next day, they sat down for breakfast together, and he found himself unable to look away from his stepmother. It reminded him of the first time his father introduced her to him. When he was just a kid, surprisingly, he felt a strong attraction towards her. Suddenly, she interrupted his thoughts by asking, "What's with the distant look on your face?" After the class, he caught up with his buddy. They spotted the attractive girl from their class being pursued by other guys. As she walked by, she noticed him from afar, wanting to ask for his assistance, but he pretended not to see her. As he sat on the bus, memories from the past came flooding back to him. Back when his stepmom, who was younger at the time, promised to always support him. When he got home, the darkness inside made him uneasy, so he turned on all the lights. The living room was a complete mess. Clothes scattered all around. Anxious, he rushed to his stepmom's room, worried that she might have left. Upon opening the door, he felt relief seeing her there. Without a second thought, he hugged her tightly, begging her to stay by his side forever. He even asked her to sleep next to him, just like she used to when he was a child. She remained silent as the night went on. Later, in his room alone, he was surprised when the door creaked open. Why was she in his room? It wasn't something he had asked for. The night grew quiet, tension filling the room. Glancing at her in bed, he felt nervous. She was already fast asleep. Summoning his courage, he embraced her from behind and softly whispered, "I can't imagine life without you." He knew it wasn't right, that she might resent him later. But with her beside him, he felt a strange, conflicting connection. When she arrived at work, she felt exhausted and couldn't believe what had happened the night before. Desperate for answers, she quickly turned to the internet for help. While browsing, her co-workers noticed she looked unsettled and asked if she was okay. She brushed it off, insisting she was fine. After work, she called her friend, and they agreed to meet at a coffee shop. As she began explaining the situation, her friend listened intently, stunned and disbelieving. By the end of the story, her friend urged them to confront him at his place. Meanwhile, Jim had just finished showering and was checking his phone when he saw a message. His young stepmom was returning home with a friend. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Before he could react, they walked in while he was still undressed. The shock on their faces said it all. It was shocking to see how different he looked since the last time she saw him. She used to be his math teacher and review his schoolwork. His face always lit up with excitement whenever he learned something new. Now he was all grown up. When Jim approached her and hugged her, saying how much he'd missed her, she pushed him away, reminding him, "You're an adult now." But Jim insisted he was just happy to see her again. She suggested they go to his room to chat, bringing snacks along. Sitting on his bed, she asked Jim directly about his feelings. He stayed silent, but when she reached for his hand, he pulled away. Gently, she explained that admiration or curiosity could easily be mistaken for attraction, and that confusion was normal. Jim cut her off. "It's not a mistake," he said. "I only feel like this when I'm with her. I'm happy, like I never want to leave." She was speechless. His feelings were more serious than she'd thought. She got up and walked to the door, but as she reached the door, she found his young stepmother eavesdropping outside. Slamming the door shut, she hissed, "Stay away for now. I got things to say to him." Memories resurfaced. The family had sent her stepsister abroad years ago to study. Then her aunt entered. She asked Jim to close his eyes, saying it would help him confirm his feelings. His heart raced as her fingers brushed his skin, a sensation he'd never felt before. Slowly, she unbuttoned his pant, murmuring, "Just relax." Outside in the yard, the stepmother was texted for help she found online. When his stepmom returned, she found Jim without his pants. "Food spill," she explained casually. The stepmother's mind raced. Had something happened between them? But she dismissed it as a paranoid thought. As Jim carried his pants to the laundry room, the aunt cornered the stepmother. I made him understand, she said. I know you're worried, but it's all okay now. As she walked out going downstairs, she suddenly felt some feelings towards Jim, but tried to control herself. In the middle of class in the dorm, there were two girls sitting behind him. One girl was talking about how her boyfriend always messes up the laundry by mixing clothes, which led to an argument. Suddenly, he remembered that his pants were mixed with his stepmom's clothes the day before, so he quickly left class and headed home. When he got home, he called out to see if his stepmom was around, but there was no answer. In a rush, he went to the laundry room to wash his pants, only to discover his stepmom's underwear stuck to with his pants. Out of curiosity, he sniffed to see if the stickiness from his pants had transferred to her underwear. Right at that moment, his stepmom called out from behind, mentioning that she had just finished showering and heard him return. She was surprised to see him holding her underwear and didn't question seeing it become worse. Jim explained that he was planning to do the laundry, and they could have dinner together after he finished washing his clothes. She just nodded with Jim's explanation made her think that Jim was acting oddly. Left alone in her room, she pondered why. Jim had her underwear earlier and wondered if he viewed her differently. Even though they weren't related, she couldn't shake the feeling. Suddenly, her phone rang with a text offering assistance. She replied asking where they should meet. Could they really solve Jim's issue? The following morning, she drove to the agreed meeting spot, which turned out to be a hotel. When she walked into the hotel room, the lady who texted her earlier greeted her warmly. They both sat on the couch, and she was handed a drink. The lady sensed her anxiety and desire for guidance on personal matters. She reassured her that a solution awaited behind the door, urging her to take a peek. Reluctantly, she opened the door, unsure of what awaited her. To her surprise, she saw a couple in a compromising situation. She attempted to leave, but the lady insisted this was the place to address such issues. Pushing the lady away, she expressed her disappointment, hoping for a different kind of help. On a rainy night, Jim was on the balcony when he heard a noise. It was his tipsy stepmom, struggling to stay upright. He assisted her to her room, noticing her soaked attire and helping her change. As she rambled about their complex relationship due to their lack of blood ties and will impact on his life, Jim was left speechless. Seeking some air, he went to his stepmom's friend from the other night. His aunt opened the door, noticing his drenched state, and offered him a towel. Worried, she asked if something had happened, and offered him dry clothes. Suddenly, he grabbed her hand and embraced her from behind, asking if they could do what their previous encounter. She asked him if she had misheard. Do you understand what that means? I'm friends with your stepmom. He knew, but he couldn't resist after hearing his stepmom mutter that she wanted to feel loved. He told her aunt that she was the first person he thought of. Sorry for bothering you at this late hour. Where are you going at this hour, Jim? His aunt asked. It's raining outside. Go wash up first. His aunt kept wondering if something serious had happened. I shouldn't have done that in Jim's room, she thought. Suddenly, she walked up to Jim, offering to help him relax just once. She felt responsible for what happened that day. Jim asked to see something of hers, staring at her without moving. She asked what he was doing, but he remained silent. Suddenly, she felt a tingling sensation and couldn't move. She asked Jim to slow down. He asked if he was doing it right, as it was his first time. His aunt told him not to overdo it. It was getting intense, and she couldn't speak. Finally, she let go and embraced the feeling, telling him not to hold back. The next morning, her stepmom thought she had dreamt everything. Meanwhile, Jim had experienced things he never thought he would and was walking back home. As he opened the door, his stepmom greeted him and suggested having breakfast. After breakfast, she patted his head, seeing him with a bright smile like when he was a child. They started cleaning the house together, and he couldn't stop staring at his stepmom working. She handed him a cloth and asked him to wash it. He felt a little tense, wondering why she was acting differently. His stepmom noticed his strange behavior. She's curious. Was there something on her face? In the bathroom, he looked in the mirror and reminded himself not to think in a strange way about her. Focus on cleaning. When he came out of the bathroom, He asked if there was anything else she needed him to do. She asked him to pass her the cloth, and accidentally grabbed something she shouldn't have. He quickly grabbed her hand and handed her the cloth. As they continued cleaning, a box almost fell on her head, and he rushed to catch it, standing too close to her. She acted as if nothing had happened. After finishing cleaning, she thanked him for his help. After showering, she asked him to massage her neck, as it had been sore all day. He was hesitant, fearing he might cross a line he shouldn't.